Hey, what's up, everybody? Tarafdar back with a brand new video. So I'm in the basement, in the garage here. Unfortunately, we can't go outside. We're quarantined, as you guys know, but I just wanted to shoot up this quick video and give you guys some information on reference to what I believe is going to help you right in this time. So most of you guys have been trying to apply for credit cards or funding, and you're having challenges with it. I'm pretty confident about that. And the reason why you're having challenges with these type of situations is because you're essentially in a situation where you're trying to obtain funding, but you're unable to do so because your credit profile doesn't necessarily qualify. So in instances like these, what you really need to concentrate on is to be able to put yourself in a pedestal in a comparison to the other type of consumers who are applying for credit. And the reason I'm telling you this is because a lot of people out there who are essentially trying to apply for credit are essentially trying to do so with a profile that is not necessarily favorable to underwriting. So if I may give you some tips and tricks today that might help you in reference to preparing a file that I believe is going to be fundable, there's a couple of things that we have to follow. These are the golden rules of funding that will ultimately help us, get the underwriting to help us and put it in our favor. The first thing, obviously, is to be able to put yourself in a situation where you have enough history. The history is a critical component of funding. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people who are going to apply for funding, and they've been trying to do so, don't necessarily have the sufficient history. History is such a critical part of funding, but most people don't really think about that, right? All they do is they think about, hey, if I just have enough trade lines, that's going to be enough to get the funding. And the reality is it's not enough. It's actually, you're going to fall short, and you're going to fall quite short if you don't pay attention to it. So the way to do it properly is to really pay attention to your history. And the best type of history is that person who has previous banking records and transactional records and previous proof of you having to constantly being able to improve your credit limits over time. And a good example of this, okay, let's assume that you've been a customer with a financial institution for, let's assume, a period of potentially 2 years, right? And in that 2-year time frame, if you don't have a single limit bump or increase in your limits, then that doesn't necessarily look good, because that means that your history is not really optimized, right? So think of optimizing your credit history. That's one way I would say it, and I would put it. The other way is really focus on putting together payment information on your credit reports, in the sense that you're actually constantly working with it and you're constantly exercising your credit muscles. And this is a big topic that I always mention to a lot of people, is that if you're not exercising your credit muscles, you're essentially falling short and putting yourself short of a situation where you'll be able to get a lot more funding that way. And what does that mean by exercising credit muscles? So let's look over some of these examples. The first one I would like to say is, when it comes to credit muscles, you have to think about situations where you're able to put ongoing payments on a regular basis, and you're able to maintain that payment history as effectively as possible, right? So a good example of this is, for example, if you have a new credit account that you just recently obtained and you opened, and you're paying that on time, right? You're paying it regularly. Think about not just paying the minimum payments, but go up and beyond, maybe a couple of more percentages above the minimum payment. You can actually be very strategic with that and really play around with it. But of course, you always want to maintain that minimum. A lot of people say, well, I have decent credit score, I have zero balance, how come I'm not getting approved? Or why am I not ready for underwriting? And that's a big reason, right? It's because your credit muscles are not being worked. A lot of creditors, this is a true fact, is that they can actually call back your credit cards and close it down if they feel that you're not going to be using it. And they have the right to do so, because if you look at the credit reporting and the structured agreement when you're applying for funding, if you look at the terms and conditions, a part of a condition there is that they'll be able to call back the loan if they feel that it is the right time for them, or if it's not sufficient and you're not using it. So by maintaining a small balance and constantly paying on it and exercising those credit muscles, you're going to be avoiding that shutdown. You're going to be avoiding all those issues that a lot of people are going through, right? So that's one thing that I want to recommend. Now, the other thing is, obviously, the first one we talked about is improve your limits. Second thing is pay your bills, borrow a little bit, and maintain a little credit muscle. That's going to help you kind of maintain that ongoing payment history. The other thing I'd like to concentrate on is potentially look at opening up non-essential primary trade lines. There's a huge list of these guys. They're everywhere, literally. There's My Jewelers Club, There's Hudson Chase, New Coast Direct, Open Sky Credit Secured, Self.Inc., which is self-lender, Care Credit. There's a whole lot of lists out there that you can actually apply with to get the funding that you need. Now, start applying with those guys. The reason why I say that is because you're going to be creating a little bit of diversity in your credit profile. And that's what it is all about, right? If you have diversity in your credit profile, you're going to be able to build up some substantial amount of credit over a short period of time, in addition to having a very nice score at the end of the day, of course, given the fact that you're maintaining your payment history, you're maintaining that credit account, and you're maintaining ongoing relationships with that creditor. You're going to be establishing some pretty decent credit right there and then, right? So that's one way of really going about it. So look for those non-essential primary trade lines. So just to recap, limit increase, payment history, maintain those credit muscles. And the third is apply for non-essential primary trade lines. Now, there's, of course, the structure in which you have to remove your negative items. We cannot forget that. That's the whole reason behind this channel, is to educate you on fixing your credit and maintaining good credit health. So what do you do and how do you maintain your good credit and credit history, right? So the way to do that is make sure that you have what we call, a decent level of education in reference to what you need to do. And this is where I say, look, start by looking and analyzing your credit reports and looking and analyzing some of the things that you can do right away to remove some of those negative accounts, and start executing the strategies that I always teach. We talked about the first strategy was always the PI minimizer technique, to minimizing your personal details and all these type of things that are necessarily hurting you and your ability to borrow. That's the first thing. Second thing, think about the item anchoring. The item anchoring is where you link those negative items to personal details that were removed by the credit bureaus based on your requesting. The third is the 15-day power surge. This can now be a little bit longer. And the reason I say that is because back in the day, CFPB used to get responses really quick, and it's still a possibility. So that's when you have zero response from the creditors and the credit bureaus willing to cooperate with you. And then they're basically shutting you down for credit that you potentially are about to get, but at the same time, they're not really budging on those negative items. That's where the 15-day power surge really comes to hand. And I think that's one of the most powerful strategies you can use past the PI minimizer technique and the item anchoring. I'm going to be putting an additional set of new resources that's going to be coming up in the next couple of months to really help you kick it to the next level of personal credit. And the reason why we need to put it into gear now is because I'm looking for people that I want on my team that I can confidently rely on and work with to help business owners now. And this is such a powerful tool because the business owners need a couple of things. Number one, they need to fix their credit. They need to be able to sustain their businesses, which we do. There's a 6 to 7 figures that you can make with these type of deals. So there's a lot of things that we can benefit from if we work together. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this video with those that you feel would benefit. And of course, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and turn the notifications on to all. So every time there's new videos like these, you'll be first to be notified. With that said, this is your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafdar. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now.